Welcome to my 2009 Porsche Cayman S. Now, I bought this car a couple of months ago, and I've absolutely loved every second of it. This car is simply fantastic. And what I want to do today is take that extra step of modernizing it. This car, it's 13 years old, and if there's one thing that I think it could really use, well, that's Apple Silicon. So that's exactly what we're gonna do today. Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace, simply the best tool to build your beautiful online presence. So why did I buy this 2009 Porsche Cayman S? Well, the simple answer is that it's the most modern Porsche coupe that you can buy for under $40,000. The slightly longer answer is it's the perfect sweet spot in the Cayman lineup. The more expensive and newer 981 generation got rid of Porsche's famous hydraulic power steering, and the current 718 generation even ditched the iconic flat six engine in most of its configurations. But at the same time, compared to the older and cheaper 2006 to 2008 models, this generation got a new engine and dual clutch transmission, which are faster, better, and more reliable. And trust me, I know, because this is actually the second Porsche Cayman that I bought this year. It's a long story, in fact, so long that I created a second YouTube channel specifically to talk about car content. I've got new videos going up there that will discuss the whole car-related situation that I have ended up in this year. Go ahead and check that out. It's definitely worth a watch. Anyway, just wanted to put that in here. Let's get back to it. So there's a lot to like about this generation of Porsche Cayman, which is why I bought this back in May. And since then, I've done a lot of modifications to the car. Originally, it was all black, and it had these really terrible aftermarket wheels. So I had it wrapped in orange, of course, a really fetching color, I might add. I also had new wheels and tires, as well as new suspension because the other one was original. And I did a couple of odds and ends around the place, wrapped the interior trim to match the exterior, and I got this car looking and performing at its absolute best. But there's one thing, just one thing, that holds this car back from feeling as modern as I honestly would like it to. And that is right there in the middle of the dashboard. So this car has the upgraded but stock navigation system. So you could either get this car with a normal AM/FM radio or this, which is the nav system. And obviously, as you might be able to tell from the fact that this is a 13-year-old car, it's not good. Following the directions for this map are ridiculously hard because it's not a very intuitive interface. And the bigger issue is that because this is 13 years old, any roads built since 2009 just aren't on here. There's also no traffic information. And if we click the phone tab here, well, you can use Bluetooth hands-free, but it's only for calling, not for music. So this really doesn't cut the mustard. But at the same time, you don't really want to get rid of it because it does have some features and functionality for the car. For example, there are vehicle functions that are saved based on which key is being used. So this is all stuff that you would lose. Additionally, if we go into the information console here, there's the Sport Chrono package. And if we start a stopwatch, you can see it pulls up a lap timer here. So if we were to remove this system, you would lose out on some of the stock functionality. Well, fortunately, I'm not the only one who's had this concern, and a company has come up with a really interesting solution for putting Apple CarPlay inside this stock unit. And I bought one, and it's really cool. Almost as cool as this transition to today's video sponsor, Squarespace, the best tool for building your website. I've been using Squarespace over the last couple of months to build a website petitioning Apple to bring us a 15-inch Apple Silicon Thin and Light. And because of their easy-to-use visual interface, you can just drag elements exactly where you want them to go. It makes it super easy to integrate home pages, a blog page, a page for showing off videos about the 15-inch MacBook that you want everyone to have, have. I can even create dedicated member areas with special content just for the most fervent 15-inch MacBook supporters. What's not to like? So go to squarespace.com to start your free trial, and when you're ready to publish your website, go to squarespace.com/LukeMiani to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. And now let's get back to the video. Okay, so here is the CarPlay conversion kit, and let's see what we get in the box. So first of all, we got instructions, and then right on top here, we have the actual interface. But we're gonna need a lot more than just this. So this is a little interconnect board, and this is gonna actually go inside of the existing head unit. And we have these pins here, which allow us to essentially jump into the ribbon cables inside the head unit. That's super cool. We have this absolute monster of an adapter here, which is going to bridge the gap and let us power the interface off of the car's fuse box and intercept stuff like the headphone jack for aux input. We also have this big fun thing, which is going to run power into our Joy Auto system. So yeah, there is a lot going on with this system, but theoretically at least, we're going to put all of this into the dashboard and have Apple CarPlay. Here in my garage, the first step here is to pull out the head unit. Now, the way that this works, it's actually kind of like Legos working on cars. So this panel has 2 screws, which I've already removed, and then look at that. We just slide it forward and it comes out. All right, there's $1,800 side panel number 2. All right, so now we're pretty much in, right? That's all there is to it, just those 2 little side panels. But I need an Allen key so that we can loosen this up and pull the head unit straight out. And here it comes. Look at that. It's free. Oh my God. All right, so now that we're inside with some nice air conditioning, we can take a look at the head unit. Despite having this very OEM front plate, once you look around the sides and back, it kind of just looks like a bare bones metal shell that you would find on any computer from the mid-2000s or even the 90s. So we've got a couple of screws on the top and bottom. These are T8s, and then there is a little bit of prying. Oh, we've done it. Look at that. What a nice little mechanism. So we've got this little module here. I actually don't know what this is, but if I had to guess, I would probably guess that it's the satellite radio. So after doing some digging, turns out my hunch was correct. This is the XM satellite radio control module. So someone paid some money to have this installed, but I don't really need it. It gets in the way. I'm gonna pop this thing on eBay. Looks like they're selling for about 200 bucks. So that's gonna cover about 40% of the cost of this upgrade. But with that now out of the way, we can grab our intercept board, which is going to basically just allow us to put our signal directly to the screen on the stock system, and we can still use all of the stock functionality. Let's go ahead and grab the included standoff screws, and then we can just screw that right in. We don't have to twist it by hand. Okay, so now that everything is finished, this is what it looks like inside our head unit. We have our blue PCB, which is going to intercept the signal coming from the stock system, which you can see down below. We've just got our ribbon cables bridging what goes to the display and what the buttons do. And then we have a display out coming over here, which is going to connect to our main unit and basically inject the signal that we want. So now all that's left to do is put this thing back together. And just like that, everything is buttoned up. That was honestly pretty easy. It was harder to get this thing out and figure out all those weird annoying screws than it was to actually work on the unit itself. But maybe that's because I'm biased and I do this all the time. Right, so everything is a mess down here right now, but I've got it all mocked up so that we could see what happens. When you turn the ignition on, you long press the navigation button, and just like that, we have Apple CarPlay. It's here, it works. It's a little laggy when I'm recording, but look at that. It's CarPlay in a 13-year-old car, and it's wireless. I'm using the phone that it's using. This is crazy. So I've now had the CarPlay mod installed for a couple of weeks, and I've put a couple hundred miles on the car with it, and I have to say, honestly, it completely transforms the car. And I know that any car person watching this is going to say, Luke, what on earth are you talking about? If you put a new exhaust on, if you put new wheels and suspension, those are going to transform a car. But it's just CarPlay. What's the big deal? Honestly, I don't even know fully how to describe it, but having all of the features that make this a great Porsche, and then having wireless Apple CarPlay at your fingertips that's built into the stock system, looks completely OEM. Oh, it's fantastic. Almost as good as this noise. But regardless, at this point, I figure it's a good idea for me to pull over and show you guys the pros and cons of this system and how it works. Now, when you turn the car on, it's going to start off in this stock head unit, but once my phone connects to the Bluetooth, it's going to automatically switch over to our Apple CarPlay interface. Now, from here, if you want to set up the settings for the Joy Auto device, we can pull out of CarPlay and go, change settings or whatever, but we can also hold the navigation button to switch back to the stock interface. And this is really interesting because this means now that we can use this completely like you normally would. You can switch back and forth, and if you don't connect a phone, it's just going to stay like this. No one would even know you have CarPlay here. But we hold the navigation button and we go back into our CarPlay here, and now we basically have a fully featured Apple CarPlay system. It even has the ability to use Siri if you hold the phone button. So there we go, Siri pulls up, no problem. We can also go back to the music app and we can use the buttons here for next and previous track, and we can actually use those to skip and to rewind. Now, confusingly, it's backwards. You do the back button to go forwards and the forwards button to go backwards, but don't worry about that. It's got to have a little quirk. It's a 14-year-old car with Apple CarPlay in it. It's not going to be perfectly flawless. And in fact, speaking of not being perfectly flawless, if we go to our library and playlist here, I can show you another example. This is a 13-year-old screen. You can probably see the resolution isn't fantastic, but more so, scrolling is, it's doable, but it's not great. For a 13-year-old touchscreen with Apple CarPlay piped into it, you can definitely see that swiping is it's definitely not the strong suit. But honestly, I'm okay with that. This is a 13-year-old car. It's got a 13-year-old head unit, and I now have wireless Apple CarPlay. So I can forgive the not very responsive or pixel-dense touchscreen just for the fact that I have it. It's there. To be cruising down the highway with a flat 6 engine roaring behind me, hydraulic steering keeping me planted in the road, and I'm using Siri to send text messages, that is an experience that you cannot get. The brand new Porsche 718 Cayman doesn't even have wireless CarPlay. Honestly, I've done a ton of mods to this car. I got it wrapped, I did the suspension, new wheels and tires, but this is the one on a day-to-day basis that makes the biggest difference. And I hope you guys have enjoyed watching me install it in this car. Definitely check out my new car channel if you want to see some more car content in the future. I've got a couple of videos up now that I think you will enjoy. So check that out, leave a like down below, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.